The acrid sting of bargain basement cologne hung in the air, the gaudily sweet thud of the lavender vanilla candle I'd bought Jasmine for our anniversary. My stomach twisted. I stood in my doorway, duffel bag clutched tightly against my chest, looking at the tableau in my living room like it belonged in a worst movie nightmare. My wife, 10 years younger than me, Jasmine, was in this other guy's arms. Not just another guy. My so-called best friend, Josiah. They were locked in a tongues and lips kiss, thrust and vehement, like the children taking a sneak peek behind the back of the cinema theater. My head screamed. My chest collapsed. I wanted to shatter, to scream, to destroy. But what did happen was that I was hit with a chill, measured calmness, after the first rush of nausea. I breathed, dropped my bag on the floor, and crept stealthily into the darkness. Someone. I had explained to Jasmine that I was off to Chicago for a business convention, a sudden impromptu trip. I even phoned from the airport, fabricating excuses about the sounds of hurrying crowds in the background. In truth, my gut feeling had been way off for months. Something did not feel right. Inconsistencies in the stories told by Jasmine, a peculiar odor, sneaky calls placed in another room. I hated the doubt, the secret suspicion that crushed our trust. So I took a trip, last desperate cast of the die to prove or disprove my suspicions. And then, to see them hugging on my couch, my worst fears were not merely answered, they were replicated, magnified, screaming at me in my head. I didn't react. I, however, walked straight to our bed and fell onto it. The same bed that is ours to share. The same bed in which we once shared a secret, got cozy, and sketched an existence. Now this existence also is lying in fragments, pieces, like the broken glass mirror in front of which you declined to look but showed agony-scoured pictures. I sat there for hours hearing their laughter, far away yet clear, beyond the shut door. Each laugh a push of the knife deeper into my heart. I recalled our past, our disastrous first date, the day I proposed in front of the Eiffel Tower, the day Lily was born. All lost now. I got up at last. The serenity in me had yielded to something tougher, something more powerful. I went into the kitchen, pulled out the drawer, and removed a steak knife, not to injure anyone, but to slice the roast that I had bought to serve at the celebratory dinner party for welcome home purposes, which Jasmine was having as welcome home party upon my arrival. I placed the roast on the cutting board. The feel of the meat was the total opposite of the din which I was enduring in the living room. Slowly, tracing fingers over, I started cutting. Soft, smooth strokes. The cutting itself was dull and somehow comforting. Then I set the table, 2 plates facing, the silverware shining in the soft light of the chandelier. 2 glasses of our pricey Merlot we'd put aside for a special night. Finally, I stood in front of the living room door, last but not least, one final deep breath, and opened it. Laughter was arrested in midair. China cheeks flushed fire engine red, paled china white. Eyes expanded into shock, slit into fright. Josiah was surprised as well. He leaped up from his seat, face writhing in fear and mortification. "Honey," blanched Jasmine, whole body shaking. You're back home early." I smiled, a pinched, iced one, not touching the eyes. "Yes," I responded curtly and authoritatively. "Supper is on." The silence that hung after was dense and oppressive. I went back to the dining room. "Shall we?" They held back, stiff and stubborn, resistant. Jasmine simply kept on staring at me, her eyes begging, perplexed. Josiah wouldn't even look at me, his face all crumpled up in embarrassment and stubbornness. We sat. The tidy symmetry of the table was a gallows humor to the emotional tempest that churned in and about us. I placed the roast. The sharp, meaty scent was present, overlaying the tension that hung in the air. I filled glasses with wine and asked, "So, how was your meeting?" Jasmine had trouble swallowing her drink. "Meeting?" she wheezed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Acknowledged," I said to him, looking over at Josiah. "The meeting which you and Josiah obviously were having. It looked productive." Josiah's jaw hung open in shock, but he remained silent. He looked over at me again, his conscience-stricken face pale. "Months, hasn't it?" I went on, my anger rising. "The home nights late on the phone, the work nights late, the funny odor, and it all makes sense now." She wept in her eyes. "It just happened," she said softly. "It didn't mean anything." I laughed, a harsh, biting laugh. "Meaning nothing? You're in my home, with my best friend, in his arms, and you tell me it meant nothing?" I spun to strike Josiah. "And you," I snarled at him, "you called yourself my friend? You did that to me?" Josiah finally had something to say, but it was a pitiful voice. "I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to do it." "Did not mean to do it?" I yelled, banging my fist on the table. Utensils clattered off its face. "You were in my bed with my wife, in my house. How could you not mean to?" I took a deep breath, fighting to hold on to my anger. I wanted to strike him, to make him realize some part of what he'd done, but I was not going to provide that. "Out!" I growled, my voice cold. "You two, out of my house!" Jasmine cried, saying to listen to them. Please, just listen to them. But I wouldn't. I couldn't. Their betrayal was obvious, pure. Josiah escaped first, his face lowered, a coward fleeing the fight of his sin. Jasmine attempted to escape second, sobbing her body back and forth, an overnight bag securely wrapped in her hand, as if she had prepared ahead of time. She did not glance back. I stood up and observed them escape, Josiah's vehicle vanishing into darkness. The stillness that was left was suffocating. I was there, the fury of my fury slowly draining into a formless nothing. In the dining room again, the unbelted roast on the table, a grim reminder of the lost illusion. I flung the dishes and the silver to the floor, the crash giving way for a moment to breathe. I began packing Jasmine's things, ramming everything helter-skelter into bags, shoes, jewelry, clothing, anything that belonged to her, I packed in the hallway. With Sunbeam on ground creeping into long shadows at sunrise, I called a locksmith and got the locks changed. I phoned a lawyer and requested a divorce. I phoned my daughter's school to let them know I was picking her up early. As I held Lily in my arms, her tiny hand tightly wrapped around mine, I knew that my life would never be the same. That future of mine ahead of me with Jasmine by my side now died in the fire. But when I stepped into the broad, wide, naively innocent eyes of my daughter, I saw more. I wasn't shattered. I was broken, hideously. But I would mend. I would repair. I would create a new life, one that was improved. Improved for Lily and improved for myself. And never again would I be so unaware, so naively innocent, so open to attack. The pain of betrayal had become difficult, a new difficulty in me, a difficulty that would propel me out of the shadows and into the light. And I sat in the stillness of my newly empty home, feeling something else I never thought I'd feel. Hope. A small, warm spark from the embers of what had burned.